So in this one, I wanted to hit, what to believe as just a person walking around the earth. Um, News stories hit you all the time, every 5 seconds it seems like. Uh, they're pulling you left, right, center, up, down, forward, backwards. You really don't have any room to breathe, and everything all the time is vying for your attention. YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, they're all trying to uh, increase their watch minutes. It's like trying to vie for your attention and your time and really your belief. The more you sit and watch, it says something about what you think about the world. You're making a choice there, and your choices are informed by your belief system. And so, a couple things I wanted to hit, particularly as it pertains to news, and just stuff like this, is a couple things: trust from authority, facts, and then opinions. So trust from authority. If a news agency reports something to you, X happened, A, B, or C happened, A didn't happen, you can't really put a whole lot of value these days, it seems like, because of the way articles are written. Very rarely is it just the facts that happen. What generally happens is they will give some sort of this person may have said this, and then all the implications about what it would mean if that's what that said. Or they'll say something, Trump said this, or, Nancy Pelosi said that. And then all the implications about what they actually said, not just here's what they said, go figure it out. Here's what I'm reporting to today. This is just the facts. And I can understand why. I mean, people largely want to be told what to think. They don't want to think for themselves. It's difficult. A lot of what is reported doesn't have a material impact on you. And so sometimes it's hard to even connect the dots of why some executive order, for example, somewhere from some president in the recent past affects you. But what does affect you? The fact that executive orders exist, for example. You're not supposed to be able to legislate from the Oval Office. Congress is supposed to do legislation, and then Senate, President, then states ratification, so on and so forth. That is what's interesting. The fact that we're just letting presidents do executive orders for just about anything now. That creates a problem, because how do you check it? I don't even know the average citizen, myself included. I know there's a registry, but I bet you if you just walked around and asked just random people, hey, where is the registry of all the laws written down? How do you even know what's enforceable and what's not? If somebody came up to you today and said, this is a law, you shouldn't be doing that, would you, no, I disagree. And, how do you even go verify that? These authority figures that are in our life, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox, whoever, Blaze News, whoever you go to, Young Turks, the minute they impugn their integrity one time, it really becomes difficult to take what they're saying with any kind of weight, with any trust. And the reason is because they're coming from a place of authority. They are our representatives, supposedly, inside those conversations, inside those rooms, reporting to us what is actually happening. What's shifted is they are now telling you what to think about what's happening. That is where it becomes very difficult as a consumer of this stuff. I say consumer, as a person who's trying to educate themselves on what's happening in the world. Because the minute that person no longer has your trust, or say it in other ways, the minute that person has spent their integrity, it becomes very difficult to get it back, especially if they're not coming to apologize, say you're sorry, reconciling, and they do it live. A lot of people don't realize that is the way, reconciliation, and then also ownership of what the wrongs you've done builds trust. I think a perfect example of this is Roger Clemens and Andy Pettit. When the PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, came out, Roger Clemens fought it tooth and nail, and it was a huge scandal for a really long time. Andy Pettit came out and said, yeah, I did it, and within a week, nobody talks about it. And if you even brought that up, most people would probably not even remember Andy Pettit. They would remember Roger Clemens. And so it would go a long way, I think, for people if news organizations didn't print retractions in these tiny little sub-columns at the back of papers or some obscure part of their website, but say, hey, look, we made a mistake here, and we're going to do better. And going forward, I think until you start to get people to do that, and at the same time change the population's expectation on what news is, you're going to be in this weird cycle where you can't even consume all the news. It's not possible, right? And there's a certain level of editorializing that happens with just the news that's reported. You only have 24 hours a day. You can only report so much stuff. So even those stories that are picked, that news organizations pick and choose in order to present what they think is newsworthy, that can impugn some certain people's understanding on what is news versus what is just salacious gossip kind of thing. And that, I think, is where I think we as a population have to do a better job. I think the fake news stuff is a good step in the right direction, where people should be holding their news organizations accountable. It's as simple as switching off, going to find somebody who is reputable, who does report straight facts, uncut video, long form video, so you can actually hear what somebody's saying, not just sound bites. Those type of things, I think, build trust, build the audience's trust. Who are they? Who are these people? What do they do on the weekend? Hypocrisy is a huge problem for people, not especially as you start to follow people. If you're following somebody and because they're saying this is virtuous, chastity is virtuous, and then you're following them and they're not chaste at all. They're just sleeping around. They have no fidelity to their wife or husband. You're like, okay, how is it possible that I can believe this person? They don't seem to practice what they preach. If you are a news organization, you're supposed to be telling the truth, and you just don't do that, or you constantly inform people and skew things without explicitly stating your bias, I think those things really do impugn your integrity. And so you get into this idea of what actually is a fact. You should do this about X is not a fact. The fact that you need oxygen to live, that's just a fact. You can just report that. Organic life needs oxygen. You need water. Fine. The minute you go in to say you should do this about that, that is doctrine. That is somebody trying to tell you, based on a fact, how you should think, how you should act, how you should react. That is where that person needs to earn their authority in your life. Too many people see somebody dressed up and looking glossy and flashy, and maybe they have a cool camera and or a really interesting setup, and they come to you in these really subtle ways and to earn your trust, little by little. It's not something that happens overnight, and then all of a sudden they take a left, and then they got you because they have your trust. And so it has to be something so egregious for you to actually take a step outside and look, okay, what are they actually trying to convince me of? And I think their Christian faith is a really, really interesting look into how you ultimately interact with people. Christians believe that the human heart is depraved, it's sinful. So even a person who looks virtuous, and even a person who has the air of sophistication, can be wrong, can be evil, can look the part and not walk the part. And then conversely, the other side, somebody can look, downtrodden and downcast, and they'd be absolutely right. And I think that instills a Christian with this, not skepticism, but this wisdom that's, okay, this person's telling me this, why should I believe them? Let me just make sure I understand before I also trust and bite down and say, okay, I'm putting my weight on this. And that's where opinion comes in. You have to be so careful when people start to give you your opinion. I'm included. I'm telling you where I'm coming from. I'm a Christian. I believe the gospel. I believe I'm a sinner saved by grace. I believe in no sex before marriage. I believe in redemption if you have done that, for example. So I'm a very biased person from that perspective. That being said, what am I trying to get you to think? Am I trying to ask you to spend money on something? Am I trying to convince you to think a certain way? Yes, I am. I am trying to get you to think a certain way. But what I'm trying to get you to think is, the way I'm trying to get you to think is for yourself, is to say, okay, before I jump in and bite down and trust something, I'm going to investigate. I'm going to have some critical thinking ability and tools before I say this is good or this is right. I'll spend my time here. I'll spend my money there. I'll spend my resources here. I won't spend my money here or my resources here. Those decisions you make, you're making them anyway. So that is those three things. Are you just trusting because they have authority? Maybe the chain of command, for example, in the Army. People are supposed to respect the office. It doesn't mean the person in the office is a respectable person, for example, or being honest or virtuous. What are facts? Facts are things that are testable and verifiable. They're not opinions. They don't tell you the should, the ought, the evil, the good. Those things start to shape opinions. And the minute you start to hear an opinion, you should ask yourself, what is this person trying to get me to think? Why are they trying to get me to think that? And why is that good or bad? So drop a comment below. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. We'll talk to you in the next one.